In the exact same year, 1871, two of Europe's largest nation-states were created simultaneously, the German Empire and the Kingdom of Italy. To understand how this happened, we have to rewind to 1815. Following the Napoleonic Wars, the conservative powers at the Congress of Vienna intentionally kept Central Europe fractured to maintain a strict balance of power. Austrian diplomat Clemens von Metternich referred to Italy as a mere geographical expression. The same applied to Germany. Millions of people shared cultural and linguistic ties, but they possessed zero political unity. The region was a patchwork of dozens of separate, overlapping jurisdictions, stretching down through the Papal States to the Kingdom of Two Sicilies. Middle-class liberals attempted to forge unified nations through popular uprisings in 1848. They failed. They had romantic ideals and constitutions, but they lacked the military strength to overcome the established monarchies. That failure forced a shift in strategy. The romantic nationalism of the early 19th century gave way to Realpolitik, a doctrine of strict, calculated pragmatism where state interests drive decisions, completely detached from ideological or moral considerations. Unity would not be achieved by speeches or majority votes. It would require the accumulation of industrial wealth, the opportunistic exploitation of diplomatic crises, and the application of overwhelming military force. The immediate barrier to unifying either Germany or Italy was the Austrian Empire. Austria was a sprawling, multi-ethnic powerhouse that explicitly relied on keeping Central Europe divided to prevent nationalist movements from tearing its own territories apart. Challenging Austria required states with the internal stability to project power outward. Prussia emerged as that leading state in the north, while the Kingdom of Piedmont-Sardinia took the lead in the south. This map shows the borders of the Zollverein, established in 1834. This was a Prussian-led customs union that abolished internal tariffs among most German states. Notice the hard boundary drawn here. Austria was intentionally excluded. By tying the smaller German states to the Prussian economy, the Zollverein created deep economic interdependence in the north. Austria was locked out of this rapid industrial growth, and over the next 3 decades, its influence over German affairs steadily eroded. Prussia leveraged this economic bloc to accelerate its industrial capacity. The mass output of coal and iron from Prussian furnaces was directly channeled into state military readiness, modernizing railways and outfitting a professional army. To the south, Piedmont-Sardinia developed a parallel advantage. Under King Victor Emmanuel II, it maintained a stable constitutional monarchy and aggressively modernized its infrastructure and trade networks, setting it apart from the absolute monarchies governing the rest of the Italian peninsula. By the late 1850s, both the German and Italian regions contained one highly modernized, economically independent state equipped to execute a strategic war against Austria. In 1862, Otto von Bismarck was appointed Minister-President of Prussia. He openly rejected the liberal methods of 1848, stating that the great questions of the day would be decided by blood and iron. His objective was highly specific: forge a unified Germany dictated from the top down by the conservative Prussian elite, and permanently expel Austria from the new power structure. Look at the structure of his strategy here. To accomplish this, Bismarck engineered a repeatable sequence of events across 3 separate international crises: provoke an enemy into declaring war, ensure they are entirely isolated diplomatically, and defeat them rapidly. The sequence began in 1864 over the disputed territories of Schleswig and Holstein. Bismarck invited Austria to join Prussia in a short war against Denmark to seize the duchies. The joint administration of this newly conquered land was a deliberate trap designed to create friction with Vienna. 2 years later, Bismarck leveraged that exact friction to trigger the Austro-Prussian War. Before fighting, he spent months isolating Austria through diplomacy, ensuring France and Russia would remain strictly neutral while Austrian forces were engaged. The Prussian army decisively defeated Austria at the Battle of Sadowa. The resulting Treaty of Prague dissolved the old German Confederation, formally ending Austrian influence in Germany and allowing Prussia to absorb the northern states. Only the southern German states remained independent. To bring them in, Bismarck needed an external threat. In 1870, he strategically edited the Ems telegram, a diplomatic dispatch, to make it appear the Prussian king had insulted the French ambassador, prompting an outraged France to declare war. Facing an active French invasion, the independent southern states allied with Prussia for their own survival, placing their militaries under Prussian command. The combined German forces overwhelmed the French military. At the Battle of Sedan, Prussian forces captured Napoleon III and decimated the French army. The subsequent Treaty of Frankfurt in 1871 imposed severe terms. France was forced to pay a massive indemnity and surrender the resource-rich territory of Alsace-Lorraine to the newly proclaimed German Empire. The German state was not born from democratic consensus. It was actively engineered by the Prussian monarchy through 3 surgically manipulated conflicts. Italian unification followed a far more chaotic path. It required an unstable combination of elite political calculation from the north and an uncontrollable popular revolution in the south. The process was initiated by Count Cavour, the Prime Minister of Piedmont. As the strategic architect, Cavour employed Realpolitik to expand Piedmontese power. Knowing Piedmont could not defeat Austria alone, Cavour forged the secret Plombières Pact in 1858 with French Emperor Napoleon III. In exchange for territory, France agreed to support Piedmont in a war to expel Austria from northern Italy. The resulting 1859 conflict allowed Piedmont to secure the wealthy region of Lombardy. Watching this success, the central Italian duchies quickly held plebiscites and voted to join Piedmont. While Cavour orchestrated northern diplomacy, the momentum shifted entirely to Giuseppe Garibaldi, an unpredictable Republican revolutionary operating in the south. In 1860, Garibaldi sailed to Sicily with a volunteer force of exactly 1,000 red shirts. Through sheer military aggression and grassroots support, they rapidly conquered the island and marched up the peninsula to take Naples, collapsing the Kingdom of Two Sicilies. Garibaldi planned to march on Rome next. Cavour recognized this as a geopolitical disaster. If a radical revolutionary attacked the Papal States, it would invite an immediate military intervention from France to protect the Pope. Cavour rapidly marched the Piedmontese army south to intercept him. The two forces met at Teano. To avoid an Italian civil war, Garibaldi yielded. He voluntarily handed control of the entire southern half of the peninsula to Piedmont's king, Victor Emmanuel II. The modern Italian state emerged not from a master plan, but from an improvised compromise, forced together in part to stop a Republican revolution from going too far. This graphic tracks the final decade of both unifications. Despite their different methods, Prussia and Italy directly facilitated each other's territorial gains through great power politics. In 1866, Italy allied with Prussia against Austria. While the Italian military struggled in the field, Prussia's overwhelming victory at Sadowa forced Austria to cede Venetia to the Italians. 4 years later, Bismarck's Franco-Prussian War created another critical opening. Facing total defeat in 1870, the French government pulled all of its military garrisons out of Rome, where they had been protecting the Pope. The moment the French abandoned their posts, the Italian army breached the walls of Rome, annexed the Papal States, and established their final capital. Neither the German Empire nor the complete Kingdom of Italy could have finalized their borders without aggressively exploiting the geopolitical instability caused by the other. By 1871, the old Congress of Vienna system was dismantled entirely. The map of Europe was rewritten around 2 massive new centers of gravity. Both nations were forged under the same premise. The liberal idealism of 1848 was abandoned in favor of opportunistic diplomacy and calculated violence. But their internal structures differed wildly. The Prussianization of Germany resulted in a unified state firmly controlled by conservative elites. It was a highly centralized, autocratic empire where the military held significant political power. Placing an economic and military giant of this magnitude directly in the center of Europe inherently destabilized the continent's balance of power, creating tensions that would accelerate into the 20th century. Italy, by contrast, ended up as a politically fragile constitutional monarchy. Its rapid, top-down integration masked severe regional disparities, trapping the country in an ongoing divide between the rapidly industrializing north and the agrarian, impoverished south. Furthermore, the annexation of Rome created a lingering internal crisis. The Pope retreated into the Vatican, outright refusing to recognize the Italian state, which alienated millions of Catholic citizens from their own new government. While blood and iron successfully forged two nations in exactly the same year, the outcomes were structurally distinct. Germany was systematically engineered to dominate European affairs, while Italy was hastily stitched together, burdened with regional scars it would carry for decades.